This is the story of one family who looted an entire nation. Hello and welcome back to the Amuse World. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and bell icon to never miss an update from us. The Rajapaksas were a powerful family in Sri Lanka who abused their power and stole billions from the people. They ruled the country with an iron fist and got rich while the rest of the population suffered. This is their story. There are declines from grace, and then there are situations like what Mahinda Rajapaksa is going through in Sri Lanka. He presided over the island nation's politics for the majority of the last 2 decades, first as president from 2005 to 2015 for a decade, and then, following a brief interregnum, as prime minister in an administration where his brother, Gotabaya, held the presidency. The Rajapaksa clan held sway over a number of state institutions, from commanding power over key economic sectors to exercising authority over the security services. The long-running Tamil Tiger insurgency was brutally put down in the early years of Mahinda Rajapaksa's rule. Later on, however, the populist quasi-autocrat, who occasionally gave the impression that he was a warrior king, leaned heavily on majoritarian nationalist politics in an effort to win over the country's majority Sinhalese Buddhist population. The Rajapaksa family appeared to be at a political low point after losing the presidential race in 2015, but they stormed back to power in 2019 after the tragic Easter Sunday terrorist attacks, running on a platform of alleged national security credentials. The worst economic crisis ever. Finally, their reign of terror came to an end. The biggest economic crisis in Sri Lanka's history, as an independent state, was experienced there. A cascading series of problems, including spiraling inflation, increasing government debt, and depleting foreign exchange reserves, made it difficult for the nation to import basic necessities, and prices for food and fuel had increased significantly over the past quarters. Darkness covered the 22 million-person nation due to power outages. Some assistance organizations compared the state of Sri Lankan hospitals to a humanitarian catastrophe due to shortages of medical supplies and medications. Rajapaksa was forced to resign as prime minister after weeks of large-scale demonstrations against his administration and deadly street violence. After his brothers Basil and Chamal and his son Namal, he became the 4th member of his family to renounce a prominent position in the space of a month with his capitulation. The focus is on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who is the most blatant case of a long nepotistic chain. The raging protests. Angry Sri Lankans from all walks of life had taken part in the days-long, largely peaceful protests taking place around the nation. They assembled in Colombo at the well-known Doll-Face waterfront promenade and transformed it into a sort of Tahrir Square on the Indian Ocean, a carnival of activism complete with tent encampments, temporary public libraries, and health and food services. They sent out a loud and obvious message that they would leave only after the Rajapaksas did. Rajapaksa and his allies boast pro-government supporters into the city, and they aggressively attacked the demonstrators in a site at Gal Place. The attack sparked a surge of venomous vengeance. The Rajapaksas and their associates' homes were set on fire as vigilantes flooded into the streets, pursued after, and beat up government supporters. The former prime minister apparently fled to a military base in the northeast of the nation the following morning. The base was quickly encircled by irate locals. Gaslighting appears to be ineffective based on the ferocity and tenacity of the protest movement. The scale and organic growth of the demonstration demonstrated that the Rajapaksas were no longer the widely respected political family that they once were. Rajapaksa's family fortune. Even during times of calm, the Rajapaksas increased military spending and engaged in a sort of crony capitalism that probably increased the family's wealth. They highlighted significant Chinese-funded infrastructure initiatives, such as a port in Hambantota, the hometown of their family, which not only turned out to be wasteful white elephants, but also turned Sri Lanka into one of the world's top examples of what happens when a country becomes indebted to Beijing. Critics contend that the pandemic and the war in Ukraine were unrelated to the crisis' origins. Nobody who took the situation seriously thought the nation would be able to pay back the $29 billion in debt it owed over the following 5 years, or the roughly $7 billion in debt it owed the previous year. But Sinhalese Buddhist supremacists, crony capitalists, The state-owned media and some significant private media outlets supported Sri Lanka's government, which was made up largely of Rajapaksa family members and supporters. It persisted in gaslighting its citizens. Gaslighting appears to be ineffective based on the ferocity and tenacity of the protest movements that took place. The scale of the demonstration and the protest's organic growth demonstrated that the Rajapaksas were no longer the well-liked political family that they previously were. Demands for forensic audits, the return of stolen property, and legal action against Rajapaksas were made in addition to requests for group resignations. People blamed the family for the island's financial collapse. The story of the Rajapaksas is a cautionary tale. It serves as a reminder that no matter how powerful one family may seem, they are not above the law. It is a reminder that greed, corruption, and abuse of power can have devastating consequences, both for individuals and entire nations. It is a reminder that justice will prevail if people unite to fight for it. In order for people to understand how the Rajapaksas plundered the entire nation, please like and share the video with as many people as you can. Be aware and be safe.